Good afternoon. All right, I've been asked to make these videos slightly shorter and more consumable, so I'm going to try. Uh, let's get right into it then. So moving on, yesterday we started off explaining what it means to have this master-servant relationship and how this is going to lead directly to a person having menuchas nefesh, to being tranquil, right? And just a quick chazara. The basic idea was that the more you know that the outcome is not in your hands, then the more tranquil you are. And obviously, we're only talking about a situation where you know that the master has your best interests at heart. You genuinely want to do what's best for him, and you're motivated to do what he requires you to do, and you trust him that he will work things out in a way that's best for you to the full extent of his capability. When you know all those things, so then you're going to do what the master requires you, and you know that he's going to take care of you even if the outcome doesn't work out well, because that has nothing to do with you. You are just an eved. You're just doing what the master required because he required it. Whether it comes out good or not, that's unrelated to you. So that was yesterday's lesson, and I think that's very, very important. Let's focus today on the next step here. So he says, "Mipnei she'im einenu boteach belokim, boteach bezulasai." If you do not trust in Hashem, you will be boteach in something else. So I want to focus really, really intensely on these words because they are so incredible and so underappreciated. I have found so many people who they don't focus clearly enough on this statement. He is teaching you a psychological secret about how human beings were created and how we must operate. If you do not trust in Hashem, you will trust in something else. What does that mean? On the surface, it sounds very simple. Very simple, right? Very simple idea. If I don't trust in Hashem, so who am I trusting in? Well, I guess I'm trusting my father to take care of me. Or I'm trusting my boss. There's a much deeper yesod here. And that is the following. Human beings are built in a way that our minds must possess somewhat of a framework of how reality operates in a consistent and understandable way. We cannot operate without some amount of certainty. To try and illustrate this a little better, children have certain needs. One of those needs is security. Children need to believe that the world is secure. Because of this need, how strong and how powerful is this need? When a child, God forbid, lo yaleinu, chas v'shalom, is abused, very often they internalize the message that the abuser is not bad, I am bad. For years, psychologists, social workers, and others have studied this phenomenon. Let's say you know other children, you are aware of other children, and you see their lives, and you see that their parents are not abusive. They're not emotionally abusive. So you know that that's not how parents should act. You see normal parents, you see healthy children with healthy parent-child interactions. Then you have your parents, and you see how they interact with you. It should be clear to you, right? Even as a child, you see that this is not healthy, this is not normal. And yet, even though rare exceptions, there are some rare exceptions, I should say, there are children who do recognize this and who are able to psychologically rebuff what's happening to them. The vast majority of children seemingly internalize the message that, well, I'm bad. My parents say I'm bad, and so I am bad. I must be bad. What would drive the child to do this? And again, this goes at all stages, from very young to much older. And this becomes so inculcated into a child's thinking that even when they grow up, and let's say they avail themselves of the services of a therapist, and the therapist explains to them that you know this is wrong, right? You know that your parents had no right to insult you, should never have insulted you. It was inappropriate the way they spoke to you. You know that, right? You're an adult now. And the child will say, yes, I'm aware of that. I'm fully aware of that. And so how come that's not it? Okay, end of therapy. Thank you. Have a nice day. Go live the rest of your life. And yet it doesn't seem to work like that, right? Even though they accept that, they know it, they understand it, they still seem to have trouble getting those feelings outside their system. It's like it's been embedded in them. Why? Why did they do that to themselves? And the answer seems to be, according to many psychological researchers, that it's because if the child accepts that the parents are bad, then the child doesn't live in a secure world anymore. Their world is insecure because there's no one who can secure it for them. You don't trust your jailer, your prison warden, if he's abusive, to care for you. You know that at any moment you could be beaten and hurt. And so the child has to make a choice, subconsciously. Either the keeper of my world, the adult who stands between me, who's the buffer between me and the rest of the world, the only person that I have directly here in front of me who is keeping me keeping the rest of the world that's big and scary at bay, that person is bad, in which case I have no buffer that I can rely on. There's no effective buffer between me and the world. Or I'm bad, and that person is good. And you know what most children choose? They choose to internalize the idea that they are bad and to inculcate that as so clearly part of their own reality, as part of their own self-definition, that it becomes a deeply entrenched truth that is imprinted upon them. Also that they can believe that their world is secure. Human beings need to believe that their world has some framework that makes sense. The world, if it's a chaotic mess, we would dissolve into a puddle of anxiety. Think about the following scenario. I mean, I've heard that there are actually people with OCD-like symptoms who experience something like this. And if that's true, that sounds terrifying. But think about the following scenario. You wake up in the morning. You have a job. You have to go to work. Imagine the first thought in your head is my car going to start today? Oh my gosh, I don't know. It might start. It might not start. Maybe I'm going to turn the key and the car won't start. Panic. What would you do? Run outside. Grab the key. Oh, the car started. Oh, thank God I can get to work. Oh my gosh. Now, of course, we don't live like that, of course, right? You get up in the morning, you make breakfast, you have coffee, you go outside, you get in the car, you turn the key, click. Oh gosh. Car's not working. I have to call the mechanic. I'm going to be late to work. Why didn't you think about that 30 minutes ago? Why didn't you think about that? Because you don't let yourself think like that. Like the child, you have to believe that you live in a secure, ordered world. Unlike a child whose need for that includes this overwhelming idea of having this, protector. As an adult, you feel that you are your own protector. You are your own buffer. But it's a lie, because what you really do is you put a million little things on sort of autopilot, and you just let yourself have this assumption that they're all going to work. So you think to yourself, my car was designed by, engineers, and it follows a natural set of scientific principles based on physics and mechanics. Of course it's going to work. I'm going to turn the key, check, and the car's going to go on. That's it. You don't sit there and think, maybe my car won't start. You don't go to work thinking, oh my gosh, when I get to work, am I going to find out that my boss fired me? Do I still have a job today? You don't think like that. That'd be crazy. Imagine if you had to live for 1 hour not knowing if anything was going to work. Maybe I'll go to the store, but the store's closed. Maybe I'm going to try and drive somewhere, but there's going to be a crazy person who's going to crash into me. Maybe my car won't start. Maybe I'm going to go blind in a minute from now. Nobody thinks like that. Maybe I'm going to get sick. Maybe I'm about to catch an illness. You don't think like that. You just think everything's going to be fine. But what is that based on? Nothing. Can you live without that, though? Would there be any possible way to have a more secure life than what I'm describing? We sort of have to do this. We're almost forced into this idea, right? We're forced into it just by dint of the fact that we simply can't live with the alternative, which is acknowledging that reality is unstable and chaotic, and frankly, our lives might fall apart at any second. The car might not start. The job might not be there. Some other person who is drunk might be speeding towards us, and chas v'shalom, and who knows what might happen. Like we can't live our lives like that, and so therefore we're forced into this, right? What's the other option? Well, the Chovos HaLevavos just told it to you. Now let's read the Chovos HaLevavos again with new eyes. If you do not fully place your trust in Hashem, boteach bezulasai, you are trusting in something else. The idea that you are not trusting somebody says, I'm not relying on anything. I rely on myself. You liar. If you relied on yourself, you'd dissolve into a puddle of anxiety-ridden goo. They would take you to a psychiatric ward and lock you up. No one relies on themselves. It's a lie. You rely on a million little things. You rely on the government. You rely on the physics of nature. You rely on the engineer who designed your car. You rely on the fact that most of the time there aren't drunk drivers driving around, and so probability and statistics tell you that one of them won't crash into you. You're relying on probability and statistics. You're relying on a zillion, billion, gajillion tiny little elements that you don't even take the time to properly calibrate into your mode of thought because it's just so subconscious and automatic. And so then you have these people running around saying, well, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. You believe in God? You believe in some big guy in the sky who takes care of you? Pfft, loser. I don't need that. Who's the loser? You know what they're relying on? Total random nonsense. Statistics and probability. Great. Considering there's 7 billion people in the world, your chances of something unlikely happening to you, frankly, are pretty good anyway. But we all know that this stuff happens routinely. Everybody has had experiences where their car didn't start. Everybody's had experiences where something they were sure was going to work out didn't work out. So what exactly are we relying on? But not so the Baal Bitachon. The Baal Bitachon is different. The Baal Bitachon doesn't rely on his car starting because his car will just start because of physics. The Baal Bitachon says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of me. Whether my car starts or doesn't start is of little consequence. Refer to the previous video. I have to do what I have to do because the Master, Hashem, has required me to do it. But I have menuchas hanefesh. I know that if the car doesn't start, that's okay. That's fine. I tried. I put my key in and I twisted it. I tried to start the car. It didn't start. That's okay. Hashem is totally taking care of me. I don't have a job today. Turns out my boss fired me. It's fine. I did my hishtadlus. I did the best I could as the Master required of me. And I'm placing my trust in Hashem. So you can replace all of those uncertainties that you're relying on. The statistics, the probability, the laws of physics, the engineer who built your car, who you never met and couldn't care less about you. You can totally replace all those things with Hashem. And you know what the difference between those things and Hashem are? Hashem never fails. Unlike the engineer who built your car, who might have gotten some tiny little thing wrong that causes your engine to fail one day when you're not expecting it, and when you're in the biggest possible rush, usually. Instead, you're relying on Hashem, who never fails and gets every calculation perfectly correct. And you know what? Our world is not the nice, kind place we think it is. How many times are people making calculations that don't even have to do with your best interests? We've all heard stories about car companies that even discovered a flaw in the car's design. But then they had secret meetings where they decided to cover it up because they figured out that the $5 billion lawsuit that they might lose in 20 years, they could probably end up settling it for only $1 billion, and the fight won't be worth it for the other side, and so they'll take the $1 billion, and that $1 billion is less than the profit they're going to make by selling the cars. And so they decide to sell the cars. You're relying on that? That's what you're relying on? And don't say, whoa, I'm not relying. You are. That's the secret. When I said to you in the previous video, the Chovos HaLevavos has access to secrets of human nature. This is one of those secrets. Non-Jews might have some amount of this understanding of what I'm telling you, but they do not have the full extent of the totality of what I'm telling you. The understanding that human beings in their psychology are utterly and completely reliant on factors outside themselves on a constant, ongoing basis. That to structure our world properly, we are absolutely forced into creating an illusion of security and safety. They might say it. You might see some papers about it. But to the Hamoyin Am, to the common man among the Goyim, and even to the researchers, I don't believe they have the powerful grasp. And they certainly don't know, and that's really what I focused on. They don't know the antidote. They don't know how to get around it. because they don't accept the Torah as true in the first place, and so their starting point is flawed. But we who accept that the Torah is true, we know there's an alternative. And that alternative gives you an incredible thing. It gives you a framework that you can rely on and also happens to be true. So instead of being that regular, ordinary guy who takes the chaos, randomness, craziness, anxiety-ridden insanity of this world and buries it in his subconscious and just lives as a normal person, who your non-Jewish psychologist, non-Jewish social worker will say, oh, well, that's healthy. That's healthy. That's how a healthy human should be, right? Which means that, again, this is something, I'm so sorry the video is going a little longer than I wanted, but I want you to focus on what I'm saying here. That means that person is telling you that a normal, healthy lifestyle means that you lie to yourself. That's what it means. That's what they're defining as a normal, healthy human. A normal, healthy human is someone who lies to themselves and buries the truth so that they can live a life that is based upon a lie so that they can function. The Torah rejects that and says that you know how you're supposed to live? You're supposed to live a life of truth and honesty. And the truth, the honest truth, is that there's nothing in your life that's reliable. Except that Hashem is running all of it. B'diuk. And therefore, there's nothing for you to worry about anyway. What are you worried about? Whether your car's going to start? What are you worried about? Whether your job's going to be there? What are you worried about? Whether someone else might make some choice that could affect you? Hashem's got all that under control. None of it is random. None of it is chaotic. And none of it should induce anxiety. Now, I'm not saying that we're all holding on that level right now. Can you imagine if we felt that way? What a beautiful life we would have if we truly and genuinely understood that there's no need to rely on anything else. There's no need to rely on any of the random factors that could affect our life, the random chaos that could at any moment upend everything. We don't need any of that. Because Hashem is the controller and orchestrator of everything. Nothing's random. Nothing's chaotic. Everything is perfectly, precisely being controlled and manipulated by Hashem. And so you can just put all of your trust, all of it, all the trust that you would have had in your boss, in your job, in your car, in your life, in your health, in physics, in nature, in the world, in other people, all of that trust. Instead, you could shift all of it to Hashem, and it's true. You don't even have to lie to yourself. What a different picture of a normal human being we have as Jews. That the normal human being is the person who is at the very least striving, achieving it is something else, but who is striving to achieve this state. Whereas instead of striving to achieve a state of normalcy, which consists of you lying to yourself, the goal of the Jew is to achieve a state of living as a normal human being, which consists of you, of you knowing the eternal truth, the true truth. To acknowledge that Hashem is in control, and to live operating in the face, or perhaps I should say better, in the shadow? I'm not sure. But living, in the practical reality of that knowledge. Have a great day. Thank you for joining me.